Welcome, everyone. We're going to try to get through this fast as possible. I'll go to the formal part of the public meeting. So once more, this is a formal public meeting to consider applications in the Planning Act. If a person or public body does not make oral written submissions to the City of Kitchener before the proposed applications are considered, the person or public body may not be entitled to appeal a decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added as a party to a hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal. Item 6.1 is 115-131 Whitney Place, Hilta Auto Inc. Mr. Schneider, I believe you're presenting first. So go ahead whenever you are ready.
Through the chair, there's no staff presentation for this item.
Excellent. You're right. It says here, no staff presentation on this item, right above your name. I'm just trying to quickly gather my bearings, trying to get through this meeting. So we'll call the delegation. Mr. Head. I'll do this in a Mr. Head, you have 5 minutes to make your submission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of council and staff. My name is Andrew Head. I'm from Dryden Smith and Head Planning Consultants in Kitchener. I'm here on behalf of the property owners of 113 Whitney Place, 115 to 131 Whitney Place. I'm going to thank staff for the presentation. It was really short. Eric did a great job. So ideally what has happened here is we initially started a minor variance application to recognize that part of this property was zoned in the wetlands, and the new purchaser purchased it to put his automotive business in it, was not allowed to conduct his business in 20% of the rear portion of the building because of the zoning. Currently, he is zoned to allow his automobile business and all other M2 uses to operate in the front 80% of the building. If you bring up your air photography, you'll notice that the building or the zoning map, you'll see the line runs through the property at the back portion of the property. We are submitting our application to modify the zoning for the rear 20% of the building to permit all uses that are allowed in the front portion of M2 of the building and not to limit it to strictly automotive use as is recommended in your staff report from Mr. Snyder. The building in question is one large building with a small office in the front and a large building in the back that, and you can imagine there's an invisible line for the 20% that they're not supposed to be in. This came clear to my client when he was making his building permit to install his lifts, that he wasn't allowed to install the lifts in that back 20% portion of this building. It is not clear to us how the flood line was determined on this property and why it's a straight line which delineates the two different zones, because it is all flood zone. In my past, whenever we have dealt with floodplains and limits, it has always been determined by a set elevation that follows a contour line. So considering that we have a finished floor elevation that runs through the whole entire building, it doesn't make sense to have a split zoning on a property in a flood zone if the flooding is the concern, because if you have an inch of water on the finished floor elevation, you have an inch of water across the entire floor, not just the back 20%. I had lots of conversations with Mr. Trevor Haywood, the GRCA resource planner. He states several things, and he doesn't have any issues with the change in zoning. I have a copy here. It says, to be clear, I don't have any objections to the existing building in the E1 floodways continually being used. The thresholds for me are additions for new accessory structures, any other outdoor storage, and a significant redevelopment of the site which would trigger a site plan. Redevelopment is permitted in the flood fringe, subject to flood proofing. That's what from the GRCA planner. We were directed by staff initially to not go through the minor variance process, which is where we would ask that the M2 zoning be applied to all of the building and come through this process through the zone change amendment process, because there was a provision in the bylaw that allowed one application free. No application fee is going to be required to be paid to come through this process. But now we further understand that they've made recommendation for only one use, where we'd like all the M2 uses We'd like the same uses in the front of the building, the front 80% of the building that are in the back 20% of the building. That is all I have. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We do have a few. Councillor Ioannidis.
Thanks, Mr. Head, for coming in. So you're in full support of the staff recommendation?
I am in support of the staff recommendation, but I'd like to modify it to recognize that the other uses are also should be included in the staff recommendation for approval.
Okay. I want to put that forward as an amendment to put that in there. I didn't have time to.
That's okay. I think we get the intent. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I didn't dig too deep, but was there any feedback from the residents? And I don't know who it would come to, staff or to you, but like in the surrounding area, because it's residential right in front of that address, right?
It is. Generally, as the applicant on file, I'm privy to all this information. I did not receive any comments,
Okay.
but maybe staff would like to answer that.
Yeah, we'll come back to staff.
Okay. My second question had to do with, do you plan to grow the footprint of the current building?
No, the building's
No,
existing.
okay.
Like, it's just a great big empty
just the
room,
zone, yeah.
but in the 20%, they're only going to allow him to do automotive for eternity instead of all the other M2 uses that are in the front of the building. And like, I just want all the use, I just wanted to be, the whole building to be zoned. I understand, and we understand why that the provision is there for the GRCA and the floodproofing, and how it should be contained to the outside of the property. Don't have any issues with that.
But you're not digging, you're not...
No,
Yeah.
it's finished, it's old. This is, it's actually a historical building. It's been around so long. It doesn't have status. Sorry, I should be careful with
Maybe
that
we
word
can
around
fix
here.
that. Okay, thank you.
All right, that's everyone.
That's the staff report where they refer to the ironworks have an historical, there's a certain manufacturer who's been there for a very long time.
Thank you, Mr. Head. Questions? That's everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions of staff from the committee? Councillor Chapman.
And I'll just ask the same question. Did you receive any feedback from the surrounding neighborhood?
Through the chair, the council policy that allows for a no-fee zone change in an E1 zone does not require any public circulation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can I get a mover for the item? Moved by Councillor Johnston. It's been amended by Councillor Ioannidis. With that, if there are no other comments with the amendment, yeah, of course. Councillor Stretch.
Yeah, sorry, I just have a question of staff. With the proposed amendment, do you foresee any issues or concerns?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the existing use policy that's been passed by council offers a one-time, no-charge zoning bylaw amendment application with the understanding that is to legalize and allow for an existing use to continue to operate. As such, we did no public consultation. We didn't circulate. We advertised only the statutory public meeting and did not engage with the residents at all in this application. This is a process that we take when it's simply adding a simple use. This application was advertised, the statutory public meeting, to permit and expand the existing use only. So I would recommend that we spoke with Mr. Head and advised that at the Committee of Adjustment time that this streamlined approval process was just as fast as the Committee of Adjustment and at no cost to his client, and made sure that they understood that it was only to permit the one additional use that's already existing.
So staff are saying they're not necessarily supportive of the amendment, but yeah. Okay, with Councillor Chapman.
So you're saying if we were to change the use, you would have public consultation, which doing just the zoning change does not require that?
Through Mr. Mayor, through sorry, Councillor, you're saying, through the existing use policy, we allow a streamlined where we only advertise a statutory public meeting because we are enabling and legalizing an existing use. And there's many reasons that an owner may need to do that to expand their business, as Mr. Head indicated, to allow for new lifts within the building that's largely existing. In the case of adding 20 uses, which is what the request is, to add all of the uses that are permitted within the zone that's being requested, that would constitute a major zoning bylaw amendment, and that would follow our process where we would hold a neighborhood information meeting on Zoom, we would do engagement with the residents, and then we would advertise a statutory public meeting, and we would outline exactly all of the uses in the proposed zoning that's being requested. So we did a streamlined, no-cost approval process with the understanding that the request was to add and legalize only the existing use.
So if we were to support the amendment, this would delay the whole process for the property owner.
The zoning bylaw amendment is in front of committee tonight. You can proceed as you wish. We're only suggesting that the streamlined approval process, which is used only to add a single use, that is the intent of the council policy that we followed to get here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take the amendment first, as moved by Councillor Ioannidis. All those in favor? And opposed? And that carries. And with the amended motion, all those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Head.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, you'll have to amend Section 3417 of the Planning Act that no further notice is required, as the zoning bylaw amendment was revised after the notice of the statutory public meeting. And I can provide that wording to the clerk.
Thank you. And I think Councillor Ioannidis did whisper that, so unless you want to. Okay, moved by Mayor Babinovich. All those in favor? Opposed? That also carries. Thank you very much. Looking at the committee, we have the other item, which is the signed bylaw amendment. No, sorry, no, this is not. It is, yeah, it is a signed bylaw amendment. We can come back, I think. We have other staff and may have questions. Or do you want to do that now? I'm looking at the committee, so. Right. Okay, all right, we can do that now. I'll look to the committee. Do we have a lot of questions in anticipation of this item? I don't think we had, so let's go ahead. Let's do that item as well.
Through the chair, just a quick note, there is also a consent item.
Yes.
So, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Well, I'll get someone to move the consent item. That's the Ontario Clean Water Act. Moved by Councillor Davey. Any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The consent item carries. So on this item, we do have a presenter from staff. There are no other delegations. Ms. McCallum, whenever you're ready. If you can just cue in, or it's already on, okay.
Through Mr. Chair, the presentation needs a repair, so I need to reload the presentation. I'm going to need 2 or 3 minutes to get that done.
Okay. I'll wait for Councillor Chapman. Yeah, if you don't mind, just for the interest of time, this is related to the proposed bylaw attached, repeal and replace specific sections of the existing sign bylaw to be adopted, and further that the updated regulation of sign bylaw be incorporated into the City of Kitchener. Again, just reminding myself, looking at the report, there are some segments of changes for the sign bylaw that's related to the real estate industry. I'm going to recuse myself on that as I have an interest in a real estate firm. So I'm just going to have Councillor Davey chair the motion. Oh, she's there. You were gone, so I'll have Councillor Chapman take over instead. Thank you.
Has the
Yeah,
staff
so
done a report?
staff representing.
Have they presented?
Yeah, no, she's going to present right now.
Okay. So, go ahead. Joanne, are you presenting?
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Chair Chapman and members of Council. I am here this evening to present our recommendations for general amendments to the sign bylaw. This work was prepared in response to Council's direction in September 2023 to address excessive boulevard signage. In addition, we have used this opportunity to address other general amendments that have been identified through frequent use of the sign bylaw. These changes are minor and technical and do not impact the overall intent of the sign bylaw. On September 25th, 2023, Council put forward a motion to address excessive boulevard signs which cause visual clutter and pose a safety hazard in the community. Council's motion relates to special event directional signs. These are small freestanding signs used to direct traffic to the location of a special event. They are allowed to be posted between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. on the day of the event. These signs are permitted in the boulevard, the area on city streets between the traveled portion of the road and the sidewalk or the property line. They are not permitted in the median. New home builder signs are also permitted in the boulevard, and those signs have their own regulations. Staff are not proposing any changes to the new home builder sign regulations. Staff reviewed the regulations of the sign bylaw and are proposing the following changes: to allow the sign to be displayed for the entire day, which gives flexibility for events that may start earlier than 9 a.m. or run later than 6 p.m. Additionally, require the prominent display of either the date or the name of the day of the week for special event directional signs to benefit residents and deter misuse, and remove the provision in the sign bylaw that requires the 30-day sign hold after a sign has been removed, as the hold has been ineffective in addressing the issue of excessive boulevard signs, and holding these signs creates an administrative burden on bylaw enforcement staff. Other proposed general amendments include updating the sign bylaw with zoning references to align with the zoning bylaw, such as adding a list of permitted sign types in mixed-use zones and including employment zones in the list of permitted sign types by zone. Staff reviewed several recent variances for schools and community centers that are in residential neighborhoods and determined that a reduction of the distance to residential properties is appropriate, with several installed signs without complaints in the past few years. The sign bylaw regulates digital signs to be turned off or sufficiently dimmed overnight. Staff are proposing to reduce the distance of signs with automatic change in copy to residentially zoned lots to be 20 meters when oriented perpendicular to the street and 30 meters otherwise, instead of 100 meters. Staff are also proposing to reduce the radius for the sign variance circulation notices to 60 meters. The circulation will remain at 120 meters for sign bylaw amendments, which are more significant applications. The current sign variance process has been in effect since 2020. At that time, sign variances were delegated to staff with some exceptions, including a staff recommendation of refusal or a community concern that could not be resolved. Based on the variance requests processed, community comments typically come from those in close proximity to the sign. Staff also received community feedback from a notice recipient beyond 60 meters that the notification distance is excessive and wasteful of city resources. Staff recommend a 60-meter circulation distance for variances to continue to provide notice to properties affected. Staff are proposing to remove the annual renewal for new home development signs, as staff have determined that there is no added value to an annual renewal. This will streamline the process for both staff and home builders. Permits for new home development signs will remain valid for a period of 4 years. There were 3 engagement opportunities in January of 2024, a virtual meeting with the Waterloo Region Association of Realtors, a discussion at the Kitchener Development Liaison Committee meeting, and a virtual community meeting including members from the sign industry. Overall feedback was positive, and staff adjusted the proposed bylaw to address concerns about the effective date and to clarify the size of lettering for the date or day of the week for the special event directional signs. The proposed amendments to the sign bylaw align with the purpose of the sign bylaw by ensuring signs are appropriate in size, number, and location to the type of activity to which they pertain. These amendments also aim to reduce excessive boulevard signage, thereby reducing visual clutter and distractions for pedestrians and motorists. The proposed amendments are minor and technical, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed sign bylaw amendment. The bylaw is proposed to come into effect on July 1st, 2024, to allow realtors and other special event providers sufficient time to produce new signs.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Questions to staff? Councillor Singh?
It's not a question of staff, it's more to point out, Madam Chair, again, the recommendations are fairly broad, but again, there's specific wordage related to realtors and real estate brokerages. So if you can just take and have that voted separately, and that way it allows me to speak to the other aspects of special events and the sign bylaw in general form. So when the time comes up, if you can separate the vote.
Okay. Can I get the clerk to give us that in writing so that we can see it?
Sorry,
Well,
what?
where is it? What do we, if we're voting for it separately, can we just see it on the screen?
Just related to open houses, so just that change for it to be voted separately.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, sure.
that should be fine.
Any other questions for staff? No? Comments? Yeah. Councillor Schneider?
Thanks. And I may have missed it in the report, but are there any fines for violations?
Through the chair. Pardon me. Through the chair, there are fines available for violations, and it can also go through, it's also in the AMPS program.
No other questions, comments? No? Okay. Councillor Singh?
Comment, not a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, just very quickly, happy to have initially brought this motion before the committee and then council, with council support. It was really in anticipation for, I think, just the cluttering of signs that were across the city, especially more for, for businesses that felt that boulevards are marketing space across the city. And it's very indicative of, a pattern that's very common in the GTA, and that's not what our community is about. And I think it's better for us to have acted very quickly before it became an entrenched practice from our businesses as well, who may not have been doing it in the past, but seeing others advertise that way, and then they feel obliged, and well, I want to get my name out there too. As a whole, I think the update was necessary. I just want to thank our planning staff that were involved, as well as bylaw, Ms. McNeil, in looking at it in a broad form, that we're not being punitive to anyone. We are just being very clear with our language. And more importantly, I think this motion will allow, not motion, but the recommendation finally allow some more space in Ms. McNeil's office, as we were holding the signs that we were picking up for 30 days, and that just made no sense. And really glad at where we are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Snyder, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Chapman. I do want to thank Gloria. Thank you so much for the time that you gave us and the open ears, and thank you, planning, for all working together on this. You know, one thing that I think bothered me a lot was a lot of these signs were from out-of-town businesses that could possibly take away from our local brick and mortar and reputable businesses. So I'm glad to see this. I'm also glad to see the 30-day hold being removed. I think that will give Gloria a lot more space in her office. So great work by everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, can I get a motion? First to vote on everything related to the open houses and realtors, and then we'll go to the more complete motion. Okay, so can I get a mover for that? Councillor Johnston? All those in favor? And then the whole motion, the whole sign motion is presented. Councillor Ioannidis, you're moving it? Yeah? All those in favor? Very good, thank you. And this meeting is adjourned. Thanks.